I'm JP Smit. I'm a philosopher here at Stellenbosch University, and I'm very fortunate at the moment to be at STIAS. Normally I do philosophy of language, and then I have a sort of sideline in philosophy of institutions, philosophy of social science, philosophy of economics. And the project I'm currently in here at STIAS is in the philosophy of social science. So the topic I'm working on is about the nature of institutions. So in this case, more specifically, we talk about what we call institutional objects. So institutional objects are some or other object that has its social role not in virtue of its physical properties, but in virtue of some or other social property. So we're talking about things like countries, presidents, money, traffic lights, driver's licenses, all that sort of thing. And there's been an ongoing debate in philosophy about the nature of those objects. And I'm the principal investigator in a little research group. It's me, then Professor Philip Beerkens at Leuven in Belgium, and Professor Stan Duplessis, who's an economist here at Stellenbosch. And we have a sort of view on this thing where we clash with the mainstream view on the nature of institutions. The mainstream view says institutions, ultimately we cannot really account for their ontological nature. It's something like a president. Someone is the president if we say they're the president. Something is money if we say it's money. Something is a country if we say it's a country. And ultimately we can say a lot more than that, but we cannot get to a sort of deeper level. And our theory is to say, no, we can get at a deeper level. If we actually think of all those objects, what they have in common, in the literature this is known as the incentivized action view. Always, when we think of country, when we think of borders, when we think of presidents, when we think of money, there's some action that we have a good reason to do or to expect, and then there are the systems of incentives that keep those actions in place. So ultimately we say we don't have to stick just with saying, well, it's money if we say it's money. We say, well, there's a reason why we treat these notes and coins a certain way, and then we have to start looking at the specific reasons why in our society we're incentivized to treat them in that way. So that's our sort of core background view. But the project I'm working on here at STIAS is specifically for the philosophy of social science. So we think there's a danger when you do social science that you just take legally created categories and you do your social science in terms of these legally created categories. So to give you an analogy, in the laws of cricket, your arm can be 10 degrees bent, but it's still straight for the laws of cricket. Yet no one expects a mathematician to use that definition of straight. It would be terrible for mathematics. The US legal system once declared ketchup a vegetable because they had to have, I think, 3 vegetables in school lunches, and if they count ketchup, it makes things easier. But we don't expect, people in horticulture and botany to suddenly treat ketchup as a vegetable. And we say, by the same token, with the definition of something like a country. Very often, if you ask someone what's a country, they say, well, it's recognized as a country, or the United Nations recognizes that as a country. Now, by the same token, as we don't think it's good mathematics to treat the laws of cricket as defining straight, we don't think it's good social science to take the United Nations as defining what is a country for purposes of social science. So to make all of this a little bit more concrete, my research focuses on a part of Somalia called Somaliland. So Somaliland is a little region of Somalia. They defend their borders, they have an army, they issue passports, they issue a currency, they have elections, but no one recognizes them as a country. Yet they have all the properties of a country. So our claim is, when you're doing social science, let's say you're doing a cross-country comparison to see if some trend holds, you would have to count Somaliland, because for all practical purposes, they are a country. What the law does is ultimately they regulate, right? And the kind of things you end up writing down when you regulate aren't the kinds of things that are most useful for studying how the world works. And our project is to try and figure out to what degree we need to discard ordinary common sense categories of this nature in favor of categories that are made up by the social sciences depending on their specific study that would make the most sense for their specific project.